News is that John Eales has cried off with that knee injury and been replaced by John Langford, so the captaincy goes to the man that normally stands in, then David Wilson. And just two changes from the Australian team that beat South Africa in Brisbane on the 2nd of August. David Knox brings perhaps a new dimension to that team as well from the fly half position. And look out for the exciting Stephen Larkham at the back. South African team from that match on the 2nd of August shows in fact 8 changes and a lot of very experienced men out of the team as Carl du Plessis strives to try and find the right combination. As usual, Gary Teichmann is captaining the side today. Warren Brosnian makes his debut in the number 6 shirt, and Johan Erasmus playing in his second test. So a big day for them, and in particular for Mark Andrews, who played so badly, if we might say that, in Brisbane earlier this month. Some changes too on the replacement bench. Both teams have decided at a rather late stage to name their replacements, and gets his first chance to put on a Springbok jersey and the field. Just 2 replacements from the back line in the South African camp and 4 forwards. That's David Wilson. And a big game for Australia. There are so many permutations, and with me today Andy Capistano. Andy, so many permutations in terms of if South Africa want to win this match and finish second in the Tri-Nation Series. Maybe you want to talk about them.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about is this for the wooden spoon? Greg Smith, the Australian coach, has been saying absolutely not. This is for second place, and we intend to be in second place. I'd have to say that it's a big hill for Australia to climb. Coming here to Loftus Versfeld, they haven't had too much time to prepare. They've been down in Durban at sea level. They came up yesterday, and most people would say that was a little bit early to counteract the effects of playing at altitude. And the other thing, of course, is you mentioned John Eales missing. Now, John Eales is a special player, and we only need to look back to that Brisbane game where he absolutely skinned South Africa in the line-out to know that South Africa will be lifted by the fact that Eales is missing. They've had their own problems at lock and at loose forward, and interesting to see Warren Brosnian playing out of position at number 6 flank, as is Matt Cobain for Australia. So Gary Teichmann, I think, will know that his side are favourites, and will also know that they're going to have to win with some sort of style if they're going to put the Tri-Nation Series and the Lions Series behind them.
Well, Andy, also those 3 big and important factors in terms of modern-day rugby: ball retention, discipline, particularly in the rucks and balls, and your defensive strategy are probably going to play a vital role today for both teams.
Yeah, I think the thing that I noticed that most at Brisbane was the amount of space that George Gregan and David Knox were given to play in. The 2 halfbacks ran the game for Australia, and unless the South African flankers have found a way to neutralise them, then Australia are going to have a very good chance in this game. David Knox in particular, I think, was able to sort of stand in a comfort zone and fling the ball around with a certain amount of gay abandon, and Gary Teichmann will know better than anybody else that you can't allow your fly half to dictate the game against you.
Well, that man that went past there in the scrum cap has a vital role to play today for South Africa. Warren Brosnian, and the belief is that he can take the fight to the Australians. South Africa desperately need loose forwards that are driving forward and taking the fight to the opposition. And there's big support here, a capacity crowd of 65,000 here at Loftus Versfeld. And in fact, the last time that Australia played here was John Thornett's team in 1963, and they lost 14 points to 13 against AB Milan's Springbok combination. Back in tow, Andre Joubert. Well, so much has been said about that man in picture, and he told me last week that he's so hungry now to get back into international rugby, and that's often the case when you've been injured or been left out for a while.
James Small, who's been under a flu cloud this week, and that is Stephen Larkham, who's not under any cloud at all.
Henry Honeyball, also a most talked about figure, finds himself in the midfield today, and an important defensive role that he has to play, particularly in support of Percival Montgomery, who has been found lacking in that department since entering the international stage. Hannes Strydom, also perhaps the third choice lock, comes into the team, And Jos van der Westhuizen and Jannie de Beer just making sure that they have got their understanding right for today's match.
Dames en heren, die nationale volksliederen. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthems.
So waiting for Advance Australia fan. So it'll be a scrum put in then for Australia. South Africa knocking on.
Just to look at the positive side of that previous movement, Andre Hubert's first touch of the ball, and the Springboks made 50 metres.
Importantly, he was very well positioned. He read that little chip from David Knox rather well. Knox looking to run away from his left foot, and this is good play now. Ben Tune. Small coming across, calls for the mark and gets it. So the two right wings of the respective teams in the game rather early. James Small just really seems to thrive on the rush of adrenaline and the action.
Very familiar by now, David Knox loop move, which gives space for Ben Tune. You see, he makes the extra man, and that's a good kick in field, but nice positioning from James Small.
So Michael Foley has got Owen Finnegan and John Langford in that line out. No John Eales, unfortunately, so will this department put them under pressure? Beautifully taken by Van der Westhuizen. This is a chance for Erasmus is in. First test try then for the Free State flanker.
There's the man who created it. Just was through so quickly to spoil as soon as he saw that Owen Finnegan had not taken clean ball at the line-out. There it is, it's gone loose, and nobody really taking responsibility. Joost comes piling through, and the quick release that Gavin Cowley was talking about there has created a try.
Well, what a delight. On his home field, Jos van der Westhuizen, knowing every blade of grass here at Loftus, the switch inside. Erasmus had a little look back just to make sure that he was not going to get caught, and what a lovely try. Going to be at 38 points this year in the Tri-Nation Series. He's been a vital cog, as is David Knox with those 16 points in the two matches he's played for Australia. Well, he struck that well as De Beer.
ball is so vital, and especially when you're that close to your own line. Joris van der Westhuizen taking it over the 22. Lovely angle from Johan Erasmus, and he showed his pace.
Andy Campistano spoke a little earlier about the preparation of the Australians, the fact that they're playing at 6,000 feet, the difficulties that could be attached to that. Are the last 20 minutes of this match going to prove absolutely vital to both teams? South Africa getting themselves properly grouped, and pressure on De Beer. Back foot is Snyman, and then Joubert. Well, one can't understand why South Africa had Joubert standing in a fly-off position without an opportunity to kick with anything but his right foot.
Quite agree. We'll see it come back now, and well, from that angle it looked actually as if Joubert had come in from the wing and was perhaps obscuring the fly half, and Yanni De Beer had the ball taken out of his flight path.
Foley going to the back to Langford. Australians looking for all the muscle they can find. They've got the weight advantage. They need momentum. Well, a rousing round of applause from the South African crowd, with that decision going South Africa's way.
Well, this is a big scrum. Remember, early on the Springboks were under pressure, and it's happening again.
Strong right shoulder, and that's what comes of it. So good pressure at the scrums by the Australians.
Well, it's a huge problem, and it's the tight five that have got to sort it out. That's a horrible end to it, but as Gavin Cowley said, it came from the great Australian scrum, and now you might see them walk the Springboks over the line.
Durant looking for a little bit of power from the loose head position. Australia have secured possession. Well, South Africa will certainly be looking at a strong 8-man scrum here if they can. This department has become absolutely vital in the modern game, and particularly in this sort of position. Gregan, with that elusive quickness of foot, can also get himself and utilise that blind side with Ben Tune. But anyway, lots of options available to Australia. Rock solid. Coker at the back. Just keeping it alive. Australia looking for that second shove. It's not coming though.
Well, the way that it's developing, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a penalty try at some stage here, Gavin.
Well, you've spoken about mind games as well, Andy, and these scrums, really, domination in the scrums early on could certainly help Australia's cause.
Well, they've had their own problems trying to find a reliable tight head. Andrew Blades is doing the job today, and it seems to me that he's getting a very good push from the engine room, and Osturant is struggling a little on the loose head side for South Africa, which is not the sort of thing that we in South Africa are used to. Osturant playing loose head, but often has the effect of a tight head on the opposition front row.
Well, if anybody has tuned in late, that's the scoreline then, 7 points to 0, and that early try then coming from Johan Erasmus in his second test. James Dalton in the middle of the South African scrum, nicknamed Bullet. That's the try scorer going down now. So Australia, can they make a better effort of this one and get that second shove that they so desperately want? Again, Coker controls. Well, poor George Gregan has shouted at the referee, come on, because he felt that there was advantage there and Ben Tune was going to run in a try.
And they've taken the scrum for the penalty, and that really is a huge one against the Springbok pack.
Now, this time it's South Africa with a strong scrum. Van der Westhuizen takes away, and South Africa have a penalty. Again, This time Van der Westhuizen's unhappy with the fact that he was called back after he was clean through.
Well, we've lost sound from the referee, and I'm not certain what that penalty was for, Gavin. Let's have a look and see whether we can spot something. It's Australia who've been penalised. It might be for the flanker coming off too early. Well, that's a marginal decision if it is.
So Dalton's first chance then at the lineouts. Andrews in the front. Big, powerful, aggressive. Van der Westhuizen. Rather Yanni de Beer at fly half. Larkham comes in. There was good pressure there on Stephen Larkham, and that's allowed South Africa to come away with it.
Well, as the ball comes back on the South African side here, watch the great handling from the Springbok number 4 there, Hannes Strydom. He's done really well to secure the ball there and get it back for the backs to use.
Tactically, there's so much to say for following up on those high balls and making sure you get into a position where you can tap it back, because it's so difficult to catch it cleanly. Finnegan with a drive. So this time pressure coming from South Africa at that ruck, and the Australians forced to play on the ball on the ground. David Wilson, the culprit. And you're just looking at the situation as it stands right now. It's almost hard to believe that South Africa have played a fair number of tests prior to De Beer without a first-choice goal kicker.
Yeah, he's been so effective since he came in. This is the penalty, and it's David Wilson who's come in off his feet. And Yanni de Beer is going to have a pot from here. Now, in the test match against the All Blacks at Ellis Park, he kicked 22 points and hit the post with the last kick of the game, which would have got the tie. So he has been very important since he came in.
He'll want to get as many points as he can early on in this match, so he's not faced with a sudden death kick that's got to go between the uprights. Well, he's just striking it so well, isn't he?
Well, the other thing to say about that is that Australia have dominated the last 10 minutes. They haven't put points on the board. South Africa have gone straight down and got a penalty.
Lovely rhythm from Yanni de Beer. Again, David knocks his kick in, and South Africa looking to try and secure proper possession. De Beer looking to go open side. Joe Roth hasn't had many opportunities today. Almost a bit of a hasty approach there from Joe Roth.
That was the kick of a man who's prepared at sea level as well, I fancy, Gavin.
Well, I bet that what's going through David Wilson's head as well is that penalty that they got close to the South African line and didn't take the kick but took the scrum instead. Should they maybe have secured those 3 points? Beautiful switch, and then bringing in big Henry Honeyball. Good possession this for South Africa. Erasmus again, Van der Westhuizen. Small, who's come across from the right wing. That ball just popping out. Everybody went down on it, and the Australians have been penalised against John Langford on that occasion.
Slightly fortunate for South Africa there. James Small taking the ball into the contact situation, seemed to have secured it, but then it flew out there. And Australia diving on the ball. Now the first guy is fine, but John Langford is the next man, and he must stay on his feet.
Did we detect a little bit of a limp there in James Small, his legs as he walked back? Been troubled a little bit with a hamstring injury this season, but his only problem this week was flu, really. Other than that, he was pronounced 100% fit. Victory today for South Africa will really mean a lot for the home nation. Australia have only really lost 3 tests this season, and all of them to the All Blacks, and 2 of them in fact in New Zealand. So their record is not as bad as what many people make it out to be. You can almost hear that kick going over. Lovely timing, good technique, and lots of confidence from Yanni de Beer.
Well, it's often cited as the favourite ground for kickers. Lovely firm service. You can see from the flags there's no wind at all. And when you're confident about your ball striking, Loftus Versfeld is one of the grounds you want to play on.
Well, bear in mind it's spring in South Africa and it's 5:30 p.m. in the afternoon, so lovely conditions today for rugby. Good work from Johan Erasmus again for South Africa.
What's your feet, guys?
Australia really have been denied enough possession to get out to those very dangerous backs of theirs, and that has been part of the game plan of South Africa, to stop George Gregan and David Knox from bringing in the likes of Ben Toon, Jason Little and the rest of them.
Stand up.
Teichmann with a quick pick-up. Over the advantage line with the first drive, which is always critical, but then you need a quicker feed than that, which South Africa are not getting. De Beer, Honeyball, Joubert. Again, Van der Westhuizen finds himself in the picture.
Referees seem to see a knock-on.
Well, we fancy that you at home are not hearing the referee, as we aren't in our ears, and as a result of that, we might on occasions talk over the referee. But in the explanations that we need to give, we'll certainly pass those on. Beautiful tackle there on Andre Joubert, just as he tried to slip through, and then again Van der Westhuizen coming in the picture. Holbeck standing on the inside, Gregan outside. This is good play this by Australia. Jason Little. Australia flying into that ruck, and then Gregan with a little tap. Well, South Africa have been penalised for being offside, and one fancies that'll go against Andre Snyman.
It was a few of the backs, and Snyman was one of them, making a good mark, and a little bit of play off the ball we can do with that. And interesting to see Australia not bothering with the kick at goal. They've set up the line out.
Well, that man David Knox is not the worst goal kicker in the business, so 2 opportunities then thrown away, and well, don't want to say thrown away, because Australia backing themselves. Beautiful take at the back of the line out. Momentum, quick turn. This is Troy Coker. Can he get down? He's right on the goal line. Gregan, quick pass. Knox is in. Well, the referee has given the try after some deliberation, and we'll have a look at that on the slow motion replay as well. But he's given the try, and the South Africans are rather discouraged with that decision.
Well, it's a question of whether there was a second movement there. Remember, you are allowed to place the ball. The referee got one look at this, Paddy O'Brien. It was good work, first of all, by the forwards. Matt Cobain was the man who won the ball at the tail of the line out. Remember, he's a lock playing up flank. South Africa did well to hold up the initial drive, and then Gregan's pass out to Knox gives him half a yard. He's fallen and he's placed, and that to me is a good try.
Well, lovely camera work there from our Supersport cameras, and that was clearly a try then to David Knox. So Australia, backing themselves, have got the try that's proved elusive in these first 15 minutes. Very circumspect is David Knox. He's got his breath back after that try. Is this strike? No, it's not going to curl in. So 13 points to 5 then, the Springboks lead the Wallabies.
See it one more time. The tackle is from Rassie Erasmus. He falls, but he is allowed to place. Good try.
Well, that's not something you wish to see at international level, with some of these Springbok forwards in front of the kicker, Jannie de Beer. Just watching Jason Little running a little bit earlier. Looks like he's really crying for that ball today. And will the Australian backs be brought into the situation during the course of this game? Good pick up from Coker. Larkham, Ben Tune plays beautifully inside, but to the wrong man. Now the counter-attack from South Africa. Montgomery, who hasn't touched the ball today as of yet. Erasmus, small, but the pass is forward.
Well, I think it might have been a try at the other end if it hadn't been forward. We can see it from this angle. Nice use of the ball by the box. Erasmus doing good work. He flings out the pass, and you can see it just had a little bit of spin that took it forward.
Well, very marginal decision. Regan's got a very solid scrum in front of him, and that's so useful for the small scrum half. Larkham this time coming in. Bearing in mind he's the top Australian try scorer in the Tri Nations with 3 tries, along with Ben Tune. Knox again. Not a great kick that from David Knox, but also good positional play from Joubert. That's a thumping punt there from Andre Joubert. That's one positive thing for the South Africans as well, is they really know their way around their own grounds, and particularly at altitude, where you need to kick the ball sometimes a little differently to the coast.
I think already we've seen the positioning of Andre Joubert is what gives him that extra second of time that makes him such a great player.
Michael Foe Finnegan in the front.
Pulling down.
South Africa get themselves grouped properly for defence. Bit of pressure on James Holbeck in the midfield. In fact, it was Ben Tune. Well, there's no question that South Africa have concentrated their game plan tactics around stopping those drives around the scrum from Gregan and Troy Coker and the rest.
Yeah, they did a good job here, but Gregan actually interfered with, well, from the previous angle it looked as if he was interfered with by the referee, but not there. Remember that behind the back move was what caused a try for ACT in the Super 12 this year.
Well, lots of Brumbies playing today then. Montgomery again coming into picture, and Snyman is upended. Beautifully taken out by Langford, quite simplistically. Now Holbeck, Little, Joe Roth, shadowed by James Small. Beautiful pass on the inside. This is great play this by Australia. Can they finish this off? This is going to be a superb try. Joe Roth with try number 2 for Australia. And we can see just why Australia have backed themselves to run rather than kick at goal.
And that try scored from 70 metres out. That's the Australian 22 in the background. beautiful hands, and Roth involved at the start of this movement. You see James Small standing off him, and that's all that it's taken for Larkham to have that extra space. Roth is the follow-up man, the final pass, and he's got too much pace and power. Wonderful handling, but everyone's so aware, and the confidence that nobody's going to drop the ball.
Knox with a simple conversion, and we have a problem with the South African left wing Andre Snyman, who fell rather heavily as Montgomery ran through, and well, perhaps it's just a precautionary measure, but he's having a brace put on his neck and he'll be leaving the field. Just watch how well Australia kept the ball until the moment critique, then they released, so they effectively took out the tacklers from South Africa, and that's what gave Roth that clean run in.
Well, Peter Rousseau will be coming on for Andre Snyman, and South Africa late in announcing their replacements for this game, and they've gone for a 4-2 forward split. And with Rousseau coming on with still 14 minutes left in the first half, as we see this try one more time, it means there's only one more three-quarter who's a scrum half left on the bench, and that could cause problems for South Africa later in the game.
Is this something that's creeping into South Africans rugby there? Just for Nevestes and just slipping the foot out as Joe Roth went over the try line. Well, the referee will delay this match until Andre Snyman has been comfortably removed from the field. Well, here's for Nevestes, and then who's been yellow carded by the referee. That was Peter Rousseau in picture, the Western Province winger, who has played most of his rugby at fullback but has been a great success on the wing at provincial level this season.
Well, this is the injury to Andre Snyman. Percy Montgomery trying to find him, and you look as Andre Snyman comes through, he fell really heavily on the back of his neck, and I don't think, well, there it was, he got a boot tangled up with Percy Montgomery, jackknifed in the air and fell heavily.
Well, Andy, I'm no medical doctor, but it looks like he might perhaps be suffering a little bit from concussion. He knocked his head as he hit the deck and didn't really have the leverage of his arms, and that's Peter Rousseau then, who's on the park.
Here's the try one more time. Lovely hands from Joe Roth. It helps when they're the size of soup plates. Water. And there again. And you watch Just going in with the boot late, and that's well spotted by the referee.
The message coming from Peter Rousseau, no doubt from Coral du Plessis, the coach. But Percy Montgomery, we want you to do the following. Well, he's certainly going to be saying, well, I need the ball to do that, and he hasn't had much of it today. So a rousing round of applause then for Andre Snyman. And that's very sad because he's a local boy as well, plays for Northern Transvaal. De Beer just asking his forwards to make sure they're behind that kick. Taken by Finnegan. Gregan, Knox. Jason Little, so good in these situations because he's tall and strong. Gregan, first touch this for Peter Rousseau. Isn't that first touch always the worst, Andy? It's like your first cricket match. It's so hard to get off zero, isn't it?
Not helped by the fact that the touchline was right there. You see how Australia have come back in possession stakes, and in terms of territory, they've been the leading side all along.
On the near side of the South African scrum is the debutant, Warren Brosnan. We haven't seen a lot of him as of yet. Gregan and Knox. Again, the little run around and the switch and bringing in Stephen, in fact, Ben Tune. Great running by him. Roth again. Roth looking on the inside, then backing himself. Well, that was good pressure play by South Africa. There were not enough Australians in there quickly to stop Joe Roth from holding on to that ball.
Well, Ben Tune coming through from the opposite wing was the important one, And then Roth, you see, has got a little bit of space given him by James Small, who was caught out of position and was too far in field. Small eventually took his man down and now needs to release him.
No Australians there, Andy, or not quickly enough to allow Joe Roth to have placed that ball immediately. Dalton hasn't had many opportunities to throw in as of yet, taken by Hannes Stradum. Well, not thrown in straight by Dalton, and that has been an ill that has beset South Africa on occasions during this rugby season. One of the reasons why Naka Drotsky finds himself on the bench is that he's perhaps not been able to throw in as accurately as what is needed. Set phase is important in the modern game. Coker held up by Brosnian. Again Gregan, quick feed from him and then Knox. Little tap kept coming from Joe Roth, who'd come around from the left wing. The one thing about Australia is how well they execute those moves of theirs with such confidence, and the pass is always accurate.
It's James Holbeck who is involved in that movement. And there's an Australian down on the far side of the field. It might be Ben Tune. In fact, I can see Tune on his feet. And here is that movement. Gregan, lovely hands, quick release. And you see there's two players running off the ball, providing a bit of space for Joe Roth, who's come all the way across from left wing.
Big take by South Africa. They're not getting good, quick, clean possession from the lineouts. I think it was Troy Coker that was down with that injury, but he's back on his feet again. Has got a heavily bandaged right knee, has Troy Coker. Mark Andrews wanting to show that that match in Brisbane was just a once-off for him. Perhaps his worst game he's played for South Africa. And the players making sure that they're getting enough fluid, because it's still pretty warm up here in Pretoria. Australia penalised. Again, it's Van der Westhuizen quickly, along with Teichmann. It's a thumping tackle on Teichmann by Holbeck. Honeyball. Well, it's not effective rucking from South Africa, because Honeyball was down. The players were not able to go over him, and good defensive work by Australia.
Yeah, Honeyball penalised for not releasing.
So Larkham making 100% sure of that one. Stuck it up into near the top tier of the lower grandstand. Quick throw in. Good work that by Australia. Tactically, they've got some of the forwards out in the back line. Larkham really has proved quite a danger man for Australia this the last part of this season, since he's come into the team. Knox again, just probing for that corner flag. And you're not going to get a better one than that, particularly as he had to use his left foot up against that touchline.
Yeah, lovely play. His favoured left foot, of course. And it was perfectly placed, because if it hadn't rolled into touch there, James Small would have had to play it, and he could have been in an awful amount of trouble.
So 5 minutes left in this first half then. South Africa lead Australia by 13 points to 12. Will it be Andrews in the front? No doubt. Van der Westhuizen will be looking for you, Jannie de Beer. And that's some relief for South Africa. It's amazing how often points are scored in these last 5 minutes before half-time. South Africa, not Australian supporters. The local hero, Just van der Westhuizen, also plays for Northern Transvaal. Coker used in the line-out, but Brosnian secures for South Africa. Delayed again for South Africa. It took some time to come out. This is Larkham. He's very elusive, he's quick as well. Knox. Ben Tune. Van der Westhuizen coming across and does particularly well to secure that possession. It's in situations like that where Just van der Westhuizen is such a valuable person for his country. He really covers so much ground and a terrific work rate.
And he really got his side out of trouble there, because it was the kick from Yanni de Beer that was really badly placed that allowed Stephen Larkham to set this move going. Ben Tune has already carried the ball very dangerously, and that kick in field is something he's tried already, and this time he got it so right, it actually spanned back towards his own team.
Jason Little has just had a little attention from the medical services, but South Africa still have the put in. A little bit of trouble on the near side. Andrew Blades with his hand on the ground, which is illegal, of course. And that's a stunning reply that from Yanni de Beer. Has shown that there's still room in the modern game for kicking.
Yeah, his line kicking's been pretty good, but I think his tactical kicking today has left a little bit to be desired, and he really must avoid sitting the ball up into the hands of the back three for Australia, because they're going to run it from everywhere.
Foley looking for Langford, not finding him. This will be a turnover ball for South Africa. Andrews. De Beer. That's good positive running by De Beer and Henry Honeyball. The South Africans are finding that that midfield defence of Holbeck and Jason Little is very, very secure.
But I think Henry Honeyball is right to keep testing them. This was nice tail ball, very nearly intercepted by Australia.
Well, we didn't see it there, Andy, but give a credit and a plus to Yanni de Beer too, because he took that ball going at pace and rather flat. This is Johanni Rasmus. That's the possession that you actually want. Now, the big race. Larkham gets there first. Hasn't he been a revelation, Stephen Larkham? This is Knox. Back foot is James Dalton, but the referee has blown his whistle, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens now. There's going to be a message given to Peter Durant. Well, Peter Durant has given a yellow card, and I didn't pick that up.
No, you're not the only one, but the referee obviously was standing right alongside some foul play. Maybe we can see it from here. It might have happened on the ground there. There's the stab through, and this is, look at Andre Hubert. It looks like a galleon in full sail, and Stephen Larkham did really well to poach the ball away. Still no sign of Oss. And now he's come through with a stiff arm, and I think that's a good decision.
We've just had news as well that Andre Snyman is not seriously injured. He's taken a knock on the shoulder blade, and precaution has been brought off the field, so he'll be okay, and that'll be good news for Andre Snyman fans. Just keep an eye on a closer picture. Yeah, there's Durant going through, and poor David Knox. Well, I don't think you could have chosen a bigger and stronger man than Peter Durant.
It reminded me a little bit of the World Wrestling Federation there. Some excellent close-ups. David Knox needs to beef up a bit, I think, before he actually goes across the waterway, though.
Well, Peter Durrant's a big man, and it's not often that he's able to catch a fly off in possession or close to possessions. He'll make a meal of it, won't he? This to put Australia in the lead. Struck this one a little bit better, has David Knox, and it's got the legs. So Australia in the lead for the first time in the match then, due to that man, Peter Durrant.
And we're in injury time, but I think there'll be a fair amount of that, maybe as much as 5 minutes.
Plenty of scurrying and diving for possession. Knox. That's a huge punt that from David Knox. Joubert with a catch. Knox is lying on the ground. There are calls of fouls, but this is Joubert. Now this is a chance for South Africa on the outside. There could well be a try. This is De Beer and Dalton. Just when we were talking about the last 5 minutes before half-time, we've suddenly had a flurry of points.
Well, Joubert, the man who started it, in his own half, looking around for some support. Takes that huge gap that he's managed to manufacture. That is wonderful play from Joubert. That looked a tad forward in real play. Montgomery with the fire back inside. De Beer has somehow managed to flick it behind his back, and coming up at pace was James Dalton, and that was such a good dummy that not even our cameraman picked it up.
Well, there's the man, the catalyst that South Africa have wanted. And the Australians are very, very unhappy with the fact that David Knox was flattened in that kick.
Yeah, Yanni De Beer was the man who flattened him this time. And we can see it from a different angle now. From there it didn't look forward. Montgomery fires it back inside, and watch the ball pop out there. Great hands from Dalton. And again, over the line, and that's the second try for South Africa. And they're back in the front.
There you saw that lovely incisive running from Andre Joubert. He was flattened as he went through. And then just watch Yanni De Beer. There was the little flick. And Dalton, well, he's a hooker, but he's got very good ball sense with a wonderful pickup. The referee had a chat to the two touch judges there, and he just started to get that one out. And one wonders if they were in fact discussing what had happened to David Knox when he launched that long up and under. From the wrong touchline by choice, and that's not going to make it. So 18-15 South Africa lead, then back into the lead. Well, I'd like to just wait and see what happens now, because Paddy O'Brien has called Troy Coker over, it looks like. David Wilson, Gary Teichmann.
Well, this is the late tackle. David Knox gets it away, and Yanni De Beer comes in with the shoulder. And in fact, from that, it looked as if it was a wonderful piece of acting by David Knox. The whistle's gone for half-time. South Africa lead by 18 points to 15.
Well, that's it then, and 4 delightful tries in this first half, and we look forward to the second half of this match. Welcome back to Pretoria. You're at Loftus Versfeld. That was the half-time scoreline then, and South Africa will want to score at least 2 tries, stretch that lead and defend like crazy in the second half to finish second in the Tri-Nation Series. Well, that man has made quite a difference, Andre Joubert, to the South African effort in the first half, and the captaincy of Gary Teichmann as well has been vigorous and well organised, and South Africa will be pleased with that first half, one feels, because they got a lot of possession, they took the chances that came their way, and they take nothing away from Australia with those two superb tries by Knox and that man Joe Roth.
Very interesting, at the end of the first half, the two touch judges came out and said to the referee, you've got to keep control of this game, and they feel that it's beginning to simmer, and as a result we feel that Paddy O'Brien actually blew the whistle a little bit early just to get the players off the field and settle them down. Let's hope that we don't see anything too dramatic in the second half.
Well, that man will be the catcher, no doubt, for South Africa, if at all possible. He's really one of the best catchers in the world from kick-ins, Mark Andrews. And his Natal counterpart, David Knox, when he's not playing for Australia, will be the man targeting this kick. Australia have split the forwards, some on the left, some on the right. Up for it goes Andrews, but unable to take cleanly. De Beer. Beautifully taken, a little switch, and there again, this is where Australia are so dangerous. David Wilson looking for men on the outside. Coker. Now again, this is Knox. Switch on the inside to Finnegan. He steps out of the first tackle. This is a good passage of play, this, for Australia. Knox. Jason Little. This is really, really good ball for Australia. Quick release now. There's Ben on the outside. Coker. The little switch. And Peter Rousseau managed to get in between that final pass.
Well, the worst possible start to the second half for South Africa, and it came from an ill-judged kick downfield by Yanni de Beer. And again, Australia showing that they are going to run from everywhere, and everybody handling in that movement.
We'll see Stephen Larkin playing with a number 22 on his back. He's replaced the jersey that he was wearing in the first half. Knox again. The switch to Holbeck, and then the second one to Tune. Well, Australia have started this second half like a really mean business. And that man, of course, has been the playmaker for Australia. He's had a very strong pack of forwards in front of him, which has allowed him a fair amount of latitude.
Thanks, hold it, hold it. Hold. Engage.
Well, we've picked up the referee now, and no doubt you at home will also hear what he has to say. Teichmann, a strong scrum from South Africa. Joubert did well there, picked it up around his feet.
Gave a rather old-fashioned look to his scrum half on the way through. This is why. That is a poor pass from that situation. Beautiful hands from Andre Joubert, and something that experience does. Didn't take his eye off the ball, didn't panic, got it away.
Equal success in the lineouts for both South Africa and Australia. One thing about Joubert as well is his balance, not just his hands. He's got beautiful balance, whether he's running or defending. Australia again using Coker in the lineout. Really has proved a useful option as a deputy to John Eales as a primary catcher of possession. Not coming from Andrew Blades. Gregan, quick hands, Holbeck. Again, Tune is brought into picture, but Knox can't take the pass.
Well, you're almost shocked when Australia do make a handling error, even if it was a tough one down at his ankles, because their general handling has been wonderful. Knox involved twice there, and then the ball flung out to him a third time, and he missed it.
So we can see that the ball has been moved around by both sides, in particular Australia, and they started off rather slowly in the match. The possession didn't always come their way, but after that They certainly got it moving, and there's been some great inventive running by the backs.
Okay. Thank you.
James Holbeck, who got a knock in the first half, looks as if he's got another one there. But again, I was talking before the game, Gavin, about the amount of space that Gregan and Knox had to play in Brisbane. And initially in this game, they were closed down. But the longer it goes on, the more you see Gregan and Knox coming into the game.
Well, I fancy South Africa's efforts are perhaps also being concentrated very close in, and maybe not enough on Knox himself as well.
Wait on. Listen, it's going to be on my whistle. You can engage. So hold. Thank you. Let's go, half. Get it in.
Teichmann standing off. This is Van der Westhuizen. Just so strong on his feet. Taken on by Andrews. Honeyball. Brosnan. That's a good pass from him. Now watch Montgomery. Terrific pace. Rousseau. Scrum off in play, and the Australians swarmed in. But South Africa, I think, have maintained possession. Dalton. Not a good pass to Honeyball. Again from the Westhuizen, looks for a place for himself. Then it's James Small. He's around the first man. This is going to be a try to Mark Andrews. And what great supportive play there from the lock forward.
That's the man who created it. That's the man who scored it. And Brosnihan was involved there as well, but so were most of South Africa. Came eventually from quick ruck ball after some very slow ruck ball, and Joos van der Westhuizen, well, that's an amazing pass, basketball type, and you see the effect of pace. It's just sliced open the defence, and Andrews can walk it over the line.
Well, there was a lovely in and out there from James Small, but early on, Joos van der Westhuizen actually kept 2 or 3 men occupied, and that's what opened up the space on the outside, and Yanni de Beer's kick off the upright. By his standards, that would have been a simple kick, but South Africa in the lead by 23 to 15. Just got 2 men taken out. Now Small, inside and outside. David Wilson will lack pace in that situation, but spare a thought for Mark Andrews. Isn't that a wonderful occasion for the big man? Again, Australia split the forwards from this kick-in. Knox going to his favoured side. Teichmann, a little bit of a misunderstanding between the South Africans. Australia have it. Holbeck. Good effective rucking by Australia. Gregan with plenty of time. Coker. Roth. Larkham. Got a lot of paces, Stephen Larkham. He's a very deceptive runner. And then Coker, well, one fancies that Coker was tackled before he got his hands on that ball.
Can't come in their side.
And South Africa had come in from the wrong side.
On the back. No, it informed. Hard luck. Thank you.
Gracie Erasmus is the miscreant, and correctly fingered on this instance. That was him with the half tackle, and now watch. He comes in from the Australian side. Now, short of swapping shirts with Troy Coker, he can't do that.
Well, this has been a big decision for Australia. Right against the touchline, Larkham with the right foot and probing for the corner flag. That's a third kicking opportunity that's gone, well, we won't say gone a-begging, but positive decisions by Australia.
Bearing in mind that they scored one of their tries from exactly that situation. It's evened up a little bit, but you can see it's still in Australia's favour.
Combination of Foley and Coker again working wonders for Australia. So the pressure's now on South Africa. Knox with a switch. Good running by Holbeck. Good hard-rucking again by Australia. They were able to pick up and move that ball quickly, and then Gregan unhindered when he needs it and when he gets it. Little again. This time he was held up by Honeyball. Gregan himself. Tune. Big test for the winger. He's so strong, is Ben Tune. James Small had come across from the right wing just to put the finishing touches to that tackle.
Well, there was a wonderful tackle in midfield here. Yanni De Beer and Henry Honourable responsible for stopping that movement. And when the ball came out, it was shepherded into touch.
There's James Small coming into picture, but it certainly took 3 men to push Ben Tune over the touchline.
Pulling down! Pulling down! Pulling down!
Look at Mark Andrews clapping as he lay on his back on the ground. And good decision from Paddy O'Brien. Not a good kick from De Beer. Larkham with time aplenty. Sums it up. Rops his man. Montgomery with a solid tackle. Now Larkham again. Larkham. And the interception from Peter Rousseau. Now this is going to be a chase and a half, but Rousseau will have the legs, and it's under the posts. So try number 4 for South Africa, and the bonus point that they so desperately wanted.
Well, that will be a real body blow for Australia, because Stephen Larkham looked as if he might have set another very dangerous movement going here. Wilson flinging it out, and Rousseau was so alive to the situation, and Holbeck was never in it. Nothing really wrong with Wilson's pass. It was pure anticipation from Rousseau and then pure pace.
Bearing in mind that Rousseau, who's a left winger, was in fairly close, and great anticipation from him. De Beer with a conversion, and that was important for South Africa now to shift that lead up, and those 4 tries will push them up to 30 points. It was a clean run for him. Holbeck was the chaser, but I'd fancy that James Holbeck couldn't get out of the starting blocks quick enough. And Rousseau, who's a tall man, also is deceptively quick over 50 metres. David Wilson just organising the forwards that are on the far side of the field, because they've split them again. It's a lovely hanging kick that from David Knox, but taken by Andrews. De Beer trying to find a quick switch, and then finds Brosnian. Now again there's Rousseau on the outside, and Australia come away with it. Again, good running from Australia, but it was not a great kick on that occasion from Larkham. Erasmus. Montgomery swamped by Larkham.
22, get out!
So Stephen Larkham has found himself rather busy in the last few minutes, but was on the wrong side.
Away.
I see Scudder Becker has come onto the field for South Africa.
Well, looks like he's leaving the field right now, so maybe it was just to take some of that magic juice to one of the players, Andy.
Well, this is the penalty, and Larkham is preventing fair release. Scudder Becker was involved. He's the man on the floor there, so he had come on, unless he was giving them juice and suddenly he got caught up.
Well, certainly no quarter arse given in this test. It's been very aggressive and very powerful. Australia looking to come away with it. South Africa took it in. That's turnover ball. Gregan. Coker. tackled by his opposite number. Suddenly the Australians seem to have got a little bit angry.
Roll it, get out of it. Same for them.
I'm surprised, Andy, that there are not more bodies on the field sort of just lying in distress, because some of the first-time tackling has been quite thunderous.
Here's the ball on the floor, and Osturant is being climbed all over by George Gregan, and says, well, give me a chance to get out of the way, old boy.
So vital acquisition of territory there for Australia, and looking at those statistics, you can see just why he's been brought into this combination, to bring those little flip passes and that good distribution from the fly half position. Gregan again. Gregan really getting plenty of possession. This is Larkham.
That'll do, both sides. Up. Both sides. Yeah.
Well, the question is, both sides
Stretch it,
what?
take a break.
Both of them flying in, and we have an injury on the far side of the field. In the other half, in fact. That's Stephen Larkham in picture.
So second phase is where Australia are dominant, but they trail by 30 points to 15. 25 minutes left in the game, and South Africa have had a habit this year of building up a lead and then sitting on it and getting walked all over. Paddy O'Brien is going to eventually have a look at this injury.
Yeah, fine, thank you. Thank you. Yep.
Well, that came about, no doubt, from that last drive when everybody went flying through, and the man who's standing off there is Brett Robinson to come onto the field as a replacement. And it's in fact Troy Coker who's really had an outstanding game, particularly in the lineouts for Australia. So that's a body blow, another one for the Aussies.
Well, he's been down an awful long time, and again, I think it's only really precautionary measures that are being taken, and it might just be another case of concussion, which is what Andre Snyman came off for South Africa. Good to see movement always in these instances.
Well, everybody back in Australia will be hoping that Troy Coker will be okay and not too seriously injured. That's the Winfield Trophy that South Africa and Australia are playing for tonight. Big question is whether David Wilson can extract from Brett Robinson the same sort of activities that we've seen from Troy Coker during the course of this match. $30 points to 15, then South Africa lead. Bearing in mind it was 18-15 at half-time, so the Australians have not scored in the second half. And in the background you can just see the start of a Mexican wave here in Pretoria. It's been a while since South Africa have been able to do a Mexican wave, one fancy, so they're certainly enjoying themselves right now.
Interesting, at half-time, Gavin, we were talking to Steve Straden, the boss of the referees in South Africa, and I was asking about the yellow card situation. South Africa have been given 2 in the first half, and he was saying they're absolutely meaningless because they'll be scrapped at the end of the Tri-Nations, and next year in both the Super 12 and the Tri-Nations there'll be no yellow cards, it'll be sin bin and red cards. And I don't know about you, but I think that's probably a positive move.
There's no question that it is, because if you take a man out of play by putting him in the sin bin, it can impact rather badly on your combination, whereas with yellow cards you can maybe take your chances and control yourself thereafter. But that's a very positive move, and another positive move was very nice to see Gary Teichmann going across to see that if Troy Coker was okay, and his opposite number, that's Troy Coker then. Teichmann with a tackle, and we'll try and keep an eye on Coker, as he goes down, he's thumped into the deck by Marius Herter, and quite possibly that was where the injury came about. In the bottom of your picture, you see James Small walking back. He also just sidled over to see that Troy Coker was okay. And as you said, Andy, importantly, he was moving his limbs, so hopefully that's an indication that the injury is not too serious.
So also Frans Verster, the South African medical doctor, out there adding his expertise.
Always a possibility at these very vigorous rucks and mauls. And perhaps it was that final tackle from Marius Herter which just knocked Troy Coker over.
He's been a great soldier over the years for Australia. Apparently his international career was at an end a couple of years ago, but he's come back, and again, a big first half, I agree with you, and he is going to be a great loss to them.
So a little bit of a reshuffle then for Australia. Gregan with a put in, and hopefully there are not too many stiff limbs amongst those 16 forwards.
Okay, just hold on.
We've had a rather long wait, and there's a big round of applause for Troy Coker as he comes off.
Get it in.
So back to the action then.
Come up, come up, come up. Okay, fellas. Hey, they've been pretty good and been very good, okay? Shoulder out, let's keep it up. On me, engage.
Gregan goes the blind side, and there's a thumping tackle on him by Warren Brosnan.
I think South Africa are a little bit fortunate not to be penalised at that scrum. The ball was heeled very quickly by Australia, and it was then held in the back. This is Joost pulling Gregan into the signage. Now fortunately that's all soft stuff.
Take a moving goal. Yeah.
Robinson second from back, David Wilson at the back, and Mark Andrews in the front with a catch. That was an aggressive jump and a drive forward. De Beer. It's always positive to see a fly half taking the ball, moving forward when he kicks, and not from a stationary position. It just puts so much more pressure on the opposition, strangely enough.
Give me a gap.
So Foley doesn't have Coker to throw to anymore. He's got Langford, the man with his hands up. And that success that you see from Australia has been largely due to Coker, but this time it's Finnegan. That's excellent ball. Knox. Ben Tune. Larkham. Taken up by David Wilson, always the first man at the point of breakdown. This is Holbeck. There's a good solid tackle there from Joost van der Westhuizen that led to that penalty.
There, right there, off your feet. Stay up.
It's almost amazing, Andy, if you look at it. The 30
Number
points
6.
to 15, South Africa leading, and Australia have had so many opportunities. But South Africa promised that they would get themselves defensively organised in this test.
Well, this is James Holbeck being tackled by Joost van der Westhuizen, who's done a lot of that today. And the next man in for Australia must stay on his feet. There's also John Langford trampling a little bit there.
And David Knox being taken out by Mark Andrews. So no love lost between the two Italians. One a native, another a visitor. Hannes Strydom. Not good possession for Van der Westhuizen, but he's so good at turning that into something.
Number 9, running obstruction, you. Can't run out.
Penalty against George Gregan. Saw a look of amazement on Joost van der Westhuizen's face. He thought it was him.
Running obstruction is what was said. Interesting to see South Africa kicking to set up the line out there. And it was the kick through from Joost van der Westhuizen that put Australia in trouble, and you can see George Griggin in the middle of your screen here. Now, he doesn't seem from that to be trying to get in the way of Joost, but maybe it was just the innocent look on his face.
Well, it was a very interesting decision, and ultimately probably a good one too, because there might have been a little shift of movement. Dalton, straight on. Taken by Peter Durant. Only South African to have scored 2 tries in the Tri-Nations since its inception. Van der Westhuizen again, Van der Westhuizen. Dalton looking for Durant. Durant's big and strong, but he can't get over.
Not forward.
Well, that's good refereeing by Paddy O'Brien and good positional play by him.
Well, beautiful camera work as well. Durant taking it through the tackle, looking to stretch out, and just lost it forward.
Good work there from Michael Foley with the first tackle, and Owen Finnegan.
Yeah, you'd have to say that in most situations, 3 metres from the line and Durant running at you, you'd expect the try. And I think we must really applaud the Australian defence there. So Owen Finnegan down on the ground. Well, you see, Foley got his man low. And there was a good follow-up tackle from David Wilson that made sure it doesn't... allowed momentum.
Okay, hold up. Okay, get yourself right. Engage.
So big scrum this for Australia. Larkham. Huge punt. This Small will be under it. Well taken. Small with a drop kick. Now keep an eye on this one. Ben Tune. South Africa have it. Joubert. They've got a chance here. Well, that was outstanding work that by Australia, holding the man back. This is Joe Roth, found himself on the right-hand side of the field. Again, it's James Small. Rousseau. Rousseau finding himself in a bit of trouble. He couldn't get an early release. One fancies he wanted to find Small. Now, Honeyball, clean through. Honeyball, and a great tackle from Larkin. Pick-up coming from Hannes Stradum, so South Africa are all over Australia right now. Joubert. Again, it's a big tackle from the Wallabies. Can they withhold this onslaught? South Africa have it again. Joubert, Van der Westhuizen. The switch, and this is a try to Montgomery.
Well, it was a numbers game in the end. Australia couldn't keep tackling, and eventually it was the clean break from Henry Honeyball that really set up that final try movement. This is the break. Honeyball doing the little shift. Larkham didn't miss his man, and look how well Honeyball does here, because there's nobody on his shoulder. Eventually the follow-up comes. A lovely long pass from Joost van der Westhuizen. Look at this beautiful catch from Andre Joubert. Popped inside to Brosnihan. And you can see Australia standing off, trying not to commit bodies to the dead ball situation. And then that little break from Joost opened up the final gap that allowed Montgomery to score.
The good form continues for Yanni de Beer. Well, we'll have another look at this. Just watch how he ducks through those early tackles, does Van der Westhuizen. And Montgomery, well, just reward. He's shown himself to be a really elusive attacker, has Percy Montgomery. And perhaps it's just been his defensive work that's been a mark against him. South Africa have, in the meanwhile, brought Bram Elson for his first test, and we'll pick up now who he's replaced. Brosnian. Van der Westhuizen. Looks like Hannes Stradum is the man that's in fact left the field and been replaced by Bramels. So first test then for the Free Stater, Erasmus.
One to the other. Didn't recapture it. Off one to the other.
22 points the difference and only 12 minutes left of this test match.
Hey, no.
Having said that, I think we might have 7 or 8 minutes of injury time.
Hold up, fellas, hold up.
There's a long way to go with a 7-point converted try these days.
Green, get back. Green.
Gregan with Holbeck. Jason Little, we haven't seen that much of him in the second half, and then Joe Roth is upended. John Langford trying to keep the ball available. So it looks like South Africa have in fact poached that ball away from Australia. Teichmann. De Beer. That's a delightful kick from De Beer and fielded by James Small. Small looks to back himself and then a thumping tackle from Brosnian on Gregan. Well, we spoke about Yanni De Beer's tactical kicking and that was just about perfect.
Yeah, but lovely anticipation. You see, James Small called it. He said, put it there and I'll catch it, and he did. Lovely hands, and I was just slightly surprised that he didn't really stretch out, and I wonder whether that little knock that you were talking about earlier on in the game, he's still feeling, and I'm not sure he's able to operate at really full pace.
Bramel standing in the middle, but to the back it goes. Good work that by Johan Erasmus, so lots of opportunities for South Africa in the lineouts. But a turnover for Australia, knocks under pressure. But James Small's asked for somebody on the touchline just to give him a little hosing down every now and then. I'll try and pick this up. This was Peter Durant with the drive. Langford was on top of him. Just so difficult to have got that ball out on the green side. Came out on the gold side instead.
Go! Get back!
Short line out called by South Africa. Andrews again. This time with a knock-on. Referee waits for advantage. Well, didn't see that as a knock-on. A switch to De Beer.
Defeat again! Up! Look at him.
Well, it wasn't David Wilson that was penalised, but one of the Australians for playing the ball off his feet. Might have been Greg Robinson.
Well done, Chris.
David Knox coming in and saying, what about the knock-on at the line-out? And the referee, I must say, called play on immediately. And you play the whistle. Gary Teichmann has called for the penalty to be taken at posts. Nice hands there. Montgomery in at pace. And an Australian then going off his feet and playing the ball with hands.
Gary Teichmann, no doubt, will be happy with the 5 tries that he's got. The 2 to Australia. And another penalty for De Beer. So it's been a successful day for the Springbok fly half with 15 points in this match. John Eales, obviously not very happy with the performance as it stands. And that was the delightful kick then from Yanni De Beer. Teichmann. South Africa coming into their own. Dalton. Well held up there on that occasion by Matt Cockbain. Van der Westhuizen finding space, and unfortunately Larkham. That was great play that by Larkham. He got through 3 tackles and still kept the ball available. And that's what makes George Gregan's job so much easier. Knox, quick through the hands, Australia. Holbeck was the man held up. Knox. Again, Larkham. Larkham straight through the middle. Still going. This is good play, this by Australia. Gregan. Taken on by Michael Foley. South Africa have really grouped themselves well defensively. They've just stood off now. This is Joubert. The referee will wait to see what advantage comes from this. Larkham is tackled. Again, Australia get the possession. They've got nobody standing off in the back line except Little and Ben Tune. In fact, it wasn't Ben Tune. Now John Langford isolating himself on the far side. This could be interesting.
Side. Coming in from the back. 10. Go back.
Well, no question that Australia will probe for that corner flag then. Joe Roff taking the kick because David Knox is down, so he's, I think, the only other left footer, and that's an awful kick from him. Well, Peter Rousseau did respond rather quickly there before that bounced back in play, and then decides to put it down, and James Holbeck charges into him. Well, it's all happening here.
It's silly. 10. 10. Penalty
Well,
on the 22. Hold it.
it's silly, that's what the
Penalty on
referee
the
says, and
22
it is.
anywhere. Just hold it. Back. Go back. Go back. Get anywhere.
Well, we'll wait to
Go
see
back, 10. Go
just
back.
what has
Anywhere on the
transpired.
22.
But James Holbeck has left the field.
Anywhere on the 22. Back 10.
And I heard the referee say to him, you've got 10.
It's about 10 minutes, I reckon.
Well, if that's the situation, then he's brought the sin bin in a season early.
And a half of rugby as well.
I'm totally mystified by that. That's a silly offence, but unless he's warned him before about that,
11
then
minutes to go.
it's got to be a yellow card.
Well, James Holbeck is in fact sitting on the side of the field right now with his hand on his head and perhaps counting the minutes, but I don't think he's going to have enough time to come back on.
Offside.
Brett Robinson caught offside in the line out.
Well, you'll see Mark Andrews get the tap down, and the person he passes to is Brett Robinson.
Joubert with a probe. There's no question that today has been a very positive response from the Springboks after a very lean period.
Green. 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 Half a step. Thank you.
Johan Erasmus standing in the middle of that line out. He's been used on
let
one
him go
occasion.
down, let him
Bram
go
Else in
down.
the front. Mark Andrews at the back.
Let him
It's
down.
Andrews. You always know you're going to get secure possession from him. Now, great running this by Warren Brosnan. It's a first try for the debutant. We've got to give an enormous amount of credit to Gary Teichmann for picking the man up on the inside, but look at that delight.
Well, wonderful aspect of it for Gary Teichmann after this lovely tail win by Mark Andrews was that he had a man either side. Here he goes, and you can see he's got James Small one way, he's got Warren Brosnan the other. He opts for the inside pass, and that's a lovely try. Nice to see Bram Else involved in that movement. His first cap for the Springboks, and he'll remember his day at Loftus.
George Gregan trying to rope a steer at the death, but he had really no chance. Brosnan had the strength, and he was virtually over by the time Gregan got to him. De Beer with the finish. So 17 points for the fly half. Keep it Van der Westhuizen been central to a lot of activities. Teichmann thinking about it, and then that little flip pass always seems to work so well. Australia deciding to replace Matt Cockbain with Tete Kerfu. Kerfu's come onto the field with the number 18 shirt, but that was the try scorer. Knox this time maybe going a little too deep to Joubert. Lots of time for the Springbok fullback, and that's a thumping punt from him too. Larkham is thinking about maybe getting a quick throw in, because what Australia really want and need are tries. Referee's indication 7 minutes, and there was a plus something, so still plenty of time. The scoreboard clock shows 1 minute. Finnegan taken on by Robinson. Knox to Kefu. Nice to have a fresh pair of legs, albeit I fancy maybe a bit late for Australia.
Advantage! Number 3 up.
Marius Hurter penalised. Guigan's not waiting for him though. Knox. Lovely little switch. Kefu was brought into the picture. Now Australia on the far side. What a huge tackle from Peter Durant. And that's been one of his successes at international level, has been his ability and his work rate around the field. Keep an eye, there's the inside pass. And there's the charge from Peter Durant. I think you know you've been tackled when that man hits you. Van der Westhuizen. Teichmann unable to take the pass at knee level. Little switch on the inside to Finnegan. Australia really are meeting quite a defensive wall every time they thrust with the backs and trying to bring those forwards into play. Tune. Joubert with a quick throw in. Montgomery, the referee's let it go. Montgomery's got lots of pace. Can he go his own? Montgomery, this is going to be a magnificent try for the centre. Well, who started it but Andre Joubert, and that is a great try. Keep an eye, there's the throw from Joubert. It was accurate, it was straight. Montgomery, he's decisively quick when he puts his ears back. Small switch to the inside, and there the charge came from Joe Roth, who was on the fast, in fact not Joe Roth, but he managed to slip the early markers there. They were on the inside. I think maybe one or two were keeping an eye on Small as well. Pinned his ears back, and lovely try. Seven out of 9 for Jannie de Beer. 7 tries for South Africa tonight, and they're into the 50s. It's really worked so well for that man tonight, and he's shown his worth to South Africa. There's been a lot of criticism of Jannie de Beer, and people have been saying that Henry Honeyball should be playing at fly half, and that this man should not be playing at centre 3/4 for South Africa because of his defensive qualities. Well, there's certainly nothing wrong with his attacking ones. Henry Honeyball goes up, finds himself having to field one of the short kicks. And Australia finish with a flourish. Tune. standing off in the back line, but South Africa were offside.
Go back. Get out, get out.
Charged, quick take from Fody. Caught some of his teammates unawares. Brett Robinson goes in.
Scrum.
The stadium clock shows -4, so we've got about another 3 or 4 minutes left in this test match.
Hold it. Hold it, hold it. 2 minutes. Scrums are good, don't stuff it.
There's the message,
Hold,
2
hold,
minutes.
No ball. No. No. Engage. Let's go, scrum. Stay on.
Switch this time to Rousseau. Just look at the support play from South Africa. It's coming in with plenty of men, but this is Joe Roth. Joe Roth, he's very strong on his feet. Good play by him, and this is going to be a try. Well, it's a finish for Australia from Jason Little. And South Africa have managed to hold Australia down to only 3 tries in this match. Good take by Roth. And he stood out of a few tackles and kept that ball available. Knox with a conversion. So really terrific scoreline. There's 54 points to 22 as it stands. Got through 2-3 tackles, did Roth, and then found Jason Little. You see that South Africa, number 17, Werner Swanepoel, is coming onto the field as a replacement to James Small. And Joos van der Westhuizen is going out to the right wing. And Swanepoel will take his favoured position. So very unselfishly off van der Westhuizen. David Knox. Good decisive tackling again in the midfield by South Africa. I think they've surprised a lot of people tonight. Swanepoel, Teichmann, Honeyball, Erasmus, Rousseau, again Erasmus, Durant. That's good possession for South Africa. It's Montgomery again, and the switch on the inside. This will be another try for Yanni de Beer. Said before this test match that South Africa would score 8 tries against the Wallabies. The most important thing is that players were running at pace off the ball carrier, and there's the little switch pass from Montgomery. De Beer has a quick look around, and then it's all over. There was the first drive or run through by De Beer, and Montgomery coming through at pace. De Beer converting his own try, and the referee decides that that will be it for tonight. There'll be a lot of joy on the faces of those men who've been under so much pressure, and one also has to perhaps feel for Greg Smith, the Australian coach, who himself is seemingly under a huge amount of pressure as well. So that's the scoreline then, 61 points to 22, 8 glorious tries from South Africa, 3 from Australia, a great test match. Thanks all round coming from Gary Teichmann and his fellow men. And Australia will be particularly disappointed, one feels too, with that scoreline at the end of the day. When we look at the statistics, we'll see that they got enough possession to have made something of this match, but they were not able to use their options as well as they might have liked. And one must give credit to South Africa for defensively. They were very well organised for most of the match tonight, and they stopped all those onslaughts from Australia. But perhaps the foundation was well laid in the first half by the Springboks, and it took Australia a long time to get back into the game in the second half. They had 15 points at half-time, and they ended with 22 at the end of the match. So it was only that try from Roth converted by Knox that were scorelines for them in the second half. Just waiting for the prize giving and the Winfield Trophy, which will be handed over to the Victoria's captain, Gary Teichmann. And Percy Montgomery in picture will be feeling a lot better as well this evening, because he played rather well tonight. He had a number of opportunities, but he got himself into play as often as possible and was rewarded with those two magnificent tries. Mark Andrews no doubt satisfied too with his efforts, and Bramels in the back of picture there, having his first run for South Africa as a replacement to Hannes Strydom.
Again, the same one.
Now, is that bad news or not? Andre Joubert just looking at that left thumb of his again, and he's had so many problems with that thumb in the last year, and just a little whisper there that maybe it had gone again. Well, one hopes that it certainly hasn't, because he's brought back to South Africa a new dimension, or a lost dimension, from the fullback position. One of the most positive aspects of this Tri-Nations as well has been the fact that so many tries have been scored compared to last year. And a lot of that, of course, is also due to the success of the All Blacks, who have posted plenty and plenty of tries. But give credit to South Africa and Australia for their efforts as well. One couldn't have asked for more or better conditions for rugby this evening. Perhaps a little bit warm to start off with for the players out there, but the 65,000 spectators, one feels, have really enjoyed this match. And, well, who can argue with 11 tries at the end of the day? So the director, Phil Marshall from Winfield, has handed over the trophy to the successful captain, Gary Teichmann, and lots of delight on the face of the Springbok captain, who himself has been under a lot of pressure. Carl du Plessis, the Springbok coach, also happy with his team's performance. And that hopefully will be some respite then as well for the Springbok coach. Well, we'll pick up the interviews as well with the captains. Very reserved man is Carl du Plessis. He's not one given for much emotion. A real spread around too in terms of the tries that were scored. Montgomery with those two. One from De Beer, who was in picture there. So Andrews, Dalton, Erasmus, Brosnian. So a lot of the new boys getting into the try scoring act. So the captain handing it over to the coach and saying, well, coach, you're the man that got us here, and we finished it off for you. Werner Swanepoel there with the coach. Nice opportunity for him as well, given to him by that man, Joost van der Westhuizen. Early on in the match, before the match, we spoke, Andy Capistano and myself, about the importance of ball retention and discipline in the rucks and mauls, as well as defence. And one feels that in the evening, South Africa managed to perform those basic things far better than Australia for most of the match, and certainly with a level of consistency.